The obesity pandemic is caused because we are eating a lot less of the high quality food, the good food. You're going to hear me say this a lot and it's probably going to trigger some people, but there is good and bad food, but this isn't a safe space. So if you get triggered, if you find this offensive, then it sucks to be you if you're so sensitive. But this is true. There's so many YouTubers I see who have made videos like the myth of bad food. There's no such thing as bad food. Yes, there is. Ice cream is bad for you. Sugar is bad for you. Alcohol is bad for you. Junk food, heavily processed food, McDonald's is bad for you. There is foods that is good for you. This fact that I'm telling you right now, it's not an opinion. This is a fact that I'm telling you that there is bad and good foods. Is quite insensitive. I'm not taking anyone's feelings into consideration when I say this. And so straight away, if I start saying, okay, McDonald's is bad for you, someone who's just ate McDonald's would feel offended by that. I'm hoping that you can agree with me that there is bad and good foods. And now it should become clear that the reason why there's an obesity pandemic is because we're choosing the bad foods. So to cure the obesity pandemic, even though it's not this simple, but to cure it, we just need to eat more good foods. I'm not even saying to eat less bad foods. The reason why we're eating bad foods is because we're eating less good foods. A successful diet is all about adding things in, not taking things out. When we take things away from a human who's addicted to them, it makes it worse. It makes him obsessed with that substance that we took away. So to cure the obesity pandemic, we need to feed people good quality food. When you fill up on good quality food, you are so full and satiated that the smallest amount of chocolate is actually a reasonable treat. My treat right now is a piece of dark chocolate. I was a chronic binge eater. My treat is a piece of dark chocolate, and that satisfies me because I am quite sickly full throughout my day of the foods that I eat in a good way. So now this new section is going to seem like common sense up until it doesn't. So don't click away. If I was watching this personally, I would think, what an idiot. We don't need to be asked this question, but I'm going to ask you the question. Hopefully you can answer it. Is fat unhealthy? Now, I would have said yes, absolutely, 100%. And that would have been wrong. It is not 100% unhealthy. There's two types of body fat, and one is actually surprisingly not unhealthy. One type actually does not lead to metabolic syndrome. And this is like, we have to reframe your mind. How is fat unhealthy? Let's ask that question. How is fat unhealthy? We understand, okay, obese people are unhealthy, they're sick, but how? Exactly what happens? Is it like the fat in your body does something? What exactly happens? There's two things. Now, having a large amount of weight can be unhealthy in the sense that it can weigh you down, it can ruin your posture, lack of exercise because you're heavier. But that is quite minuscule compared to the metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is the reason why fat is so unhealthy. But metabolic syndrome is not exactly caused by fat. Hopefully you didn't click away when I started talking about good and bad food, but you're going to learn how bad food gives you metabolic syndrome. I want you to reframe your mind that fat is just a symptom of eating in a calorie surplus, but fat does not equal sickness. It does not equal metabolic syndrome. It does not equal diabetes and cardiovascular disease, although it is heavily correlated. This is where it gets a bit of like mind-boggling. So essentially, since it's heavily correlated, we may as well say that, it's caused, but it is not. Cause and effect is very, very different. Metabolic syndrome is like diabetes, heart disease, stroke, blood pressure. It's like the things we correlate with fat gain. So we think that metabolic syndrome is caused by fat gain. This is where it gets interesting. Hopefully I've explained it in a way that you can understand it, because this is where we start getting to like the conspiracy theories, and we start thinking that everything we know about fat is actually kind of wrong. Metabolic syndrome is not caused by fat gain. About 20% of obese people are actually relatively healthy because they don't have metabolic syndrome. And now we can start to disassociate. And I never thought I'd be one of those like health at every size, fat positive people. Fat is actually not unhealthy by itself. The huge problem, the health problem that comes, which we thought was due to fat gain, comes from something else. We've got to ask, what is causing metabolic syndrome? But now we can see that metabolic syndrome, diabetes, heart disease, stroke is just one symptom. Obesity is another symptom.